The broken table. The Galactic Council chamber was a place meant for peace. Its ceiling stretched high like the inside of a starship hangar, covered in glowing lights that mimicked constellations. The long oval table in the center was built from black stone mined from a dead world, a reminder of what war could destroy. Here, leaders from 100 species gathered to end bloodshed, or so they claimed. When the human delegation entered, whispers rolled across the chamber. Small, fragile, weak. Those were the words many alien leaders had for Earth's people. They wore simple suits, not heavy armor, no bright crests, no jeweled robes. Their leader, Ambassador Hale, walked calmly, his face unreadable, carrying nothing but a thin data pad. To the Council, this looked like weakness. To the humans, it was a choice. The first hours of negotiation were filled with sharp voices. The Jorth Dominion demanded more trade routes. The Zalari Empire shouted for control of border systems. Other voices overlapped, some calm, some venomous. Every demand ended the same way. More power for themselves, less for others. Ambassador Hale listened, quiet, almost invisible. At last, the council speaker turned to Earth's seat. "And what does your little world want?" The Zalari Emperor sneered, his scales glowing in mocking amusement. Murmurs of laughter followed, a ripple of derision that echoed off the black stone. Hale's voice was steady, simple, clear. "Humanity wants peace," he said. "We want a future where no child hides under burning skies, where no fleet turns cities into ash, where no world is enslaved." For a moment, silence filled the chamber. Some delegates shifted uncomfortably. Others stared in disbelief. Then, as if a dam broke, laughter shook the hall. "Peace?" One of the Krav generals barked, his tusks clattering. "You are children begging for mercy in a war you cannot win." Another added, "The galaxy is not built on peace, human. It is built on power, blood, and fire." The laughter grew, rolling louder, rising like thunder. Ambassador Hale did not flinch. His eyes stayed cold, his words sharpened. "Peace is always a choice," he replied, "but so is war." The council erupted again, this time not just in laughter but in outrage. The Emperor of Zalari slammed his clawed hand on the table, cracking the black stone. "You dare threaten us?" he roared. Hale's reply was quiet, yet it carried to every corner of the hall. "No," he said, "I warn you." The session spiraled into chaos. Alliances broke down, shouts turned into insults, and insults into open promises of fleets and fire. The peace talks were collapsing, and everyone knew it. Some wanted war, some feared it, but no one believed humanity could ever enforce its words. Finally, the council speaker struck his staff against the floor. "The peace talks are ended," he declared. "Let the galaxy prepare for what comes." One by one, leaders stormed out of the chamber, their escorts following. The sound of heavy boots, claws and hooves echoed against the walls. In their wake, Ambassador Hale stood alone at the black stone table, his datapad still untouched, his face calm. A junior aide rushed to his side, whispering, "Sir, they mock us. They think we are weak." Hale placed the datapad down and answered, "Good." The aide blinked in shock. "Good, but they will attack. They will spread their lies." Hale's gaze drifted upward to the false constellations shining above. "They think humanity is small," he said. "They think we beg for scraps." He paused, his words now edged with iron. "Let them believe it for now." Outside, alien news drones floated in the corridors, recording every step. When they caught sight of Hale leaving the chamber, they broadcast his image across 1,000 star systems. To the galaxy, it looked like a defeated human walking away from power. But the recording captured something else too. His faint smile, a smile that was not broken but sharp, deliberate, and dangerous. Back on Earth, military officers waited in silence. Encrypted channels blinked with unread messages. The fleets had been recalled months earlier, hidden under layers of secrecy. Factories burned day and night, building machines no alien eye had yet seen. The peace talks were always just the first move. And now, with their collapse, the board was clear. In the chamber, the cracked black stone table stood as a symbol. To aliens, it was proof that peace had failed. To humans, it was a reminder. When peace dies, war is not weakness. War is the answer no one expects until it arrives. And as the galaxy laughed at humanity that night, they did not see the storm already rising beyond their borders. Silence before the storm. The galaxy celebrated when the peace talks ended, not because peace was saved, but because humanity had been humiliated. On hundreds of alien networks, images of the human ambassador walking out alone replayed again and again. Commentators laughed, calling it proof that Earth was too weak, too soft, too naive to survive in the stars. Alien leaders raised toasts in their halls. The Jorth Dominion promised its people new colonies carved from human space. The Zalari Emperor promised his fleets would teach Earth its place in the cosmic order. Even small powers whispered that the humans would break within months. Everywhere across the stars they believed the matter was settled, but on Earth, silence ruled. The government made no speeches, no threats, no protests. Instead, factories burned with endless light, starports went dark, traffic halted, ships pulled back from border routes. It was as if humanity had simply withdrawn from the galaxy. And yet, in that silence, something stirred. Alien traders who once visited Earth returned with strange stories. Entire shipyards closed to outsiders, massive shipments of raw metals, vanishing into restricted sectors, convoys of military freighters traveling with no broadcast, disappearing into shadowed lanes. At first, no one cared. Who worried about humans and their little projects? But whispers spread quickly. Why are they so quiet? One council aide asked. Why hide fleets instead of showing them? Another wondered. On border worlds near human space, alien captains spoke of seeing flashes in the dark, shadows shaped like ships then gone. Some said it was only nerves, tricks of space. But unease began to grow. The first true crack came. When the Voran Confederacy sent a fleet to inspect a human colony, the colony was small, barely 100,000 people, with little defense. The Voran commanders boasted they would take it in a single day. Alien news drones followed them eagerly, waiting to record the easy conquest, but the conquest never came. The fleet entered orbit and then, silence, no signals, no transmissions, no victory broadcast. Hours later, a single Voran escape pod was recovered near the border. The survivors' voice was broken, trembling with terror. They came from nowhere, he whispered. No engines, no light, only shadows, and then our ships were gone. He died minutes later, eyes wide with fear. The council dismissed it as madness. Humans could not do this, they said, not with their weak fleets. But doubts began to spread. Other raids followed. Each one ended the same way, fleets vanishing. No wreckage, no survivors, only rumors. Some whispered of weapons that tore ships apart without sound. Others claimed humanity had awakened old technology. Whatever the truth, fear crept into alien voices. In the great council chambers, the laughter faded. Leaders now spoke. In private, their tones sharp, their faces uneasy. Where are the humans? One asked. Why do they not speak? Another demanded. No one had an answer. Then came the broadcast. It was short, only seconds long, sent across every channel in the galaxy. The image showed a single human general standing in darkness. Behind him, only the faint outline of something. Massive, metal, shadow, and power. His voice was calm, without anger, without mercy. You mocked peace, he said. Now we answer. The broadcast ended, leaving silence across 1,000 worlds. Panic spread instantly. Merchants canceled voyages to human space. Fleets doubled their patrols at the borders. Governments called secret meetings. But nothing came from Earth. No demands, no explanations, no threats. Only silence, deep and terrible. In that silence, the galaxy began to fear, because silence can hide many things. It can hide fleets. It can hide weapons. It can hide vengeance, and the humans were hiding all three. The first answer. The first to test humanity's silence was the Torvak Alliance. They believed the humans were only bluffing, hiding behind rumors and shadows. So they sent a fleet of 40 warships into the Orion Verge, a human-controlled border sector. Their commanders laughed, expecting to crush a colony, seize its resources, and return home as heroes. The colony of New Carthage had no great defenses. Its planetary shield was old, its orbital cannons weak. Families hid underground as the Torvac fleet descended, their banners glowing across the night sky. Alien news drones hovered nearby, eager to capture the easy victory. But when the first bombardment order was given, the stars shifted. From the blackness above, something vast emerged, not with the roar of engines, not with the light of thrusters, but in silence. A single human vessel glided into view, larger than a battleship, darker than the void itself. The Torvac admiral sneered. "One ship," he laughed. "They dare face us with one?" His fleet spread out, weapons charging, targeting systems locked. But then, the human ship moved. No flash, no warning. Beams of invisible energy lanced through the dark. Torvac ships simply broke apart, their hulls splitting as if crushed by unseen hands. One by one, ships vanished into fire. No shields, no armor, no escape. Panic filled the alien channels. "What is this? What weapon?" Voices screamed. The admiral tried to retreat, but his flagship cracked open like glass. Within minutes, 40 ships became burning debris, scattered across the void. The only sound was silence. The human vessel did not gloat, did not broadcast threats. It simply turned, hovering above New Carthage like a watchful guardian. Then it vanished again, swallowed by shadow, leaving only ruin behind. The galaxy erupted. News of the destruction spread faster than light. Alien worlds demanded answers. How could one human ship destroy an entire fleet? The council called emergency sessions, voices trembling, fear now replacing laughter. The Voran survivor's words returned to every mind. "They came from nowhere," he had whispered, "and then we were gone." At the time they had mocked him, now no one laughed. Now his broken words were prophecy. Alien empires began to test the silence. Another raid here, a skirmish there. But every time, the result was the same. Ships destroyed without trace, fleets vanishing into dark, survivors speaking only of shadows and crushing force. The galaxy began to understand. Humans were no longer fighting for survival. They were answering, and their answer was not loud, not filled with speeches or boasts. It was quiet, precise, and terrifying. The council debated endlessly. Some argued humanity had discovered ancient weapons, relics of dead civilizations. Others claimed Earth had made alliances with unknown powers. But the truth was simpler. The humans had been preparing, building, and waiting while the galaxy mocked them. On distant worlds, children whispered of the silent armada. Stories spread of ghost ships that moved without sound, of weapons that could bend space, of humans who never smiled again, only stared. With cold eyes in hidden chambers, the same question echoed again and again. If one ship can do this, how many do they have? And still humanity gave no answers. Only silence, and silence now was the loudest sound in the galaxy. Echoes of fear. The destruction of the Torvac fleet was only the beginning. Whispers of what had happened at New Carthage spread like wildfire. Across the stars, every tavern, every marketplace, every military academy echoed with one question. How can one human ship erase 40 warships in silence? At first, the great empires dismissed it as rumor. But when a second fleet vanished, then a third, the whispers became fear. The Krav sent 20 ships into human territory, confident in their tusked warriors and heavy cannons. None of them returned. Only wreckage floated at the edge of space. Twisted metal scattered like broken toys. Alien governments scrambled to explain the disasters. Some called them accidents. Others claimed human trickery. But no explanation could erase the fact that fleets were disappearing whenever they touched Earth's borders. The galaxy began to realize the truth. Humans were not hiding anymore, they were hunting. Merchants reported sightings of strange shadows drifting past their convoys. Ships darker than space itself, moving without sound, without light. Some swore they saw human insignias on the hulls. Others whispered the humans had become ghosts. In council chambers, arguments broke out daily. "We must unite against them," one delegate shouted. "They are only bluffing," another insisted. But beneath the noise, even the boldest voices trembled, because none of them wanted to be the next fleet erased on alien worlds. Propaganda screens once mocking humans now showed warnings. Do not provoke Earth, they read. Do not cross into their space. Children were taught to fear the shadow ships. Soldiers whispered that fighting humans was suicide. Fear had replaced laughter, and silence had replaced arrogance. First real evidence came when fragments of a destroyed alien cruiser were recovered. The hull showed no burn marks, no missile damage, no laser strikes. Instead, the metal was crushed inward as if by invisible force. Scientists argued for weeks, unable to explain. Some called it gravity weapons. Others said black hole projectors. But one fact was clear. No known empire had technology like this. The galaxy demanded answers. And at last, Earth gave one. A message appeared on every channel, spoken in a voice cold and calm. You mocked our peace, now you will know our silence. The message ended with a single image. A fleet, dark and endless, drifting just beyond the galactic rim. No one knew if it was real or an illusion, but fear gripped every world. Alien spies tried to uncover the truth. They infiltrated Earth's colonies, hacked into communication lines, bribed merchants for information, but all they found was more silence. Factories hidden underground, shipyards sealed, fleets training without broadcast. No leaks, no weakness, no pride, only discipline. In the shadows, humanity had become something new. Not desperate survivors, not weak negotiators, but hunters in the void, striking only when necessary, leaving fear behind as their weapon. The Jorth Dominion, once loud in its insults, grew quiet. The Zelari, emperor who had mocked humanity at the peace talks, canceled all raids on Earth. Even the mighty Krav hushed their threats. The galaxy had faced wars before, endless battles between empires, but never had they faced silence like this. Silence that killed fleets, silence that broke empires, and in that silence the humans spoke only once more. This time, a single sentence carried across the stars. Now we answer. It was not a declaration of war, it was a promise, and the galaxy trembled, waiting for the next shadow to fall. The unveiling. The galaxy had lived in fear of rumors for months. Stories of shadow fleets and invisible weapons spread across every star system. But no one had seen the truth with their own eyes, until the day humanity decided to show it. It began with a transmission that cut across every network. No one could block it, no one could trace it. A dark screen lit up with the symbol of Earth. Then a calm voice spoke, steady and sharp. You believed we were weak, the voice said. Now you will see what we prepared while you mocked. The screen shifted. At first only stars appeared, endless and cold. Then shapes moved across the dark. One ship, then another, then dozens more. Vast warships slid into view, their hulls black as the void, their outlines jagged and alien. Engines glowed faintly, not with fire, but with a steady, unnatural pulse. It was the first glimpse of the silent armada. Alien leaders watched with wide eyes. These were not the old, rusted cruisers humanity once fielded. These ships were larger, sharper, alive with hidden power. Weapons hummed along their frames, cannons that bent light, launchers that left no trails, and around them smaller vessels darted like predators. The fleet moved as one, silent and perfect. The council chambers erupted in chaos. Some screamed that it was fake, a trick. Others whispered it was real, too real. But the silence of the humans in the video was undeniable. Not a boast, not a threat, only a message. We are ready. Then came the demonstration. The screen showed a barren moon, chosen as a target. The silent armada fired. No sound, no explosion of color. The moon cracked apart like glass, fragments scattering into space. Gasps filled the council halls as entire worlds watched the impossible. Weapons that could shatter a celestial body with surgical precision, yet leave nearby colonies untouched. This is not war, the human voice said, calm and sharp. This is control. The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, silence followed for the first time. The great empires saw what they truly faced. Not weaklings begging for peace, but a force capable of rewriting war itself. On alien worlds, fear turned to panic. Merchants canceled all trade with human space. Military academies rewrote their strategies. Children asked their teachers if the shadows would come for their homes. Priests prayed to forgotten gods because if humans had built this fleet in silence, what else had they built? The Zalari Emperor called an emergency meeting. "We must unite," he said, his voice shaking though he tried to hide it. "If humanity moves, no empire alone can stop them." But the room was filled with doubt. Each empire feared the humans, but they feared each other too. Old rivalries stopped them from standing together, and so nothing was done. On Earth, the generals stood before their screens. They had unveiled their hand, but not their full strength. Not every weapon, not every secret. Only enough to remind the galaxy that humanity was no longer prey, but predator. The silent armada moved slowly toward the borders, not attacking, not raiding, only drifting closer, a shadow on the horizon of the galaxy, its presence alone enough to shatter the courage of worlds. And when alien fleets scrambled to block their path, they stopped, holding position, weapons ready but silent. The message was clear. We could destroy you, but we do not need to speak. The galaxy had mocked humanity at the peace table. Now, with the unveiling of the silent armada, the laughter was gone. In its place was dread, a dread deeper than any. War, because war they understood. But silence they could not fight. And still, the humans gave no promises, no explanations, only the fleet, vast and waiting, and the question that haunted every empire. If this was only the unveiling, what was still hidden? Judgment fire. The galaxy had seen the silent armada. They had watched it shatter a moon with ease, but still, many believed it was only a warning, that humanity would hesitate, that their silence was bluff. The Zalari Empire was the first to test this belief. Its emperor, proud and furious, refused to kneel. He declared before the council, "Humans are liars. Their fleet is smoke and shadow. We will crush them." And with that, he sent 1,000 ships to block the armada. The galaxy held its breath, waiting for the clash. The armada entered Zalari space without sound, no threats, no broadcasts, no demands. The Zalari ships surrounded them, engines burning bright, weapons glowing. The Emperor himself watched from his throne ship, certain of victory. Then the humans answered. The sky tore open with silent fire. Beams of invisible force struck the Zalari fleet. Ships twisted and cracked like toys, armor folded inward, engines collapsed, weapons shattered. In moments, hundreds of warships were gone, not burning wrecks, not drifting hulks, gone, erased as if swallowed by the void. The survivors panicked. Some fled, some begged for mercy. But the armada showed no rage, no cruelty. Their strikes were precise, surgical. Warships destroyed, but civilian transports untouched. Planetary defenses shattered, but cities left standing. It was not slaughter, it was judgment. The Emperor screamed in fury, demanding a counterattack. But his voice was drowned by silence. On every screen, the image of a human commander appeared. His eyes were calm, his face sharp as steel. "You wanted war," he said, his tone cold. "This is the price of mocking peace." The Zalari throne ship fired all its weapons at once. Dozens of beams and missiles streaked toward the human flagship. But before they landed, space itself bent. The attacks vanished into nothing, swallowed by invisible walls. Then a single blast of human fire struck the Emperor's ship. The throne cracked, the ship split in two, and the Empire's proud leader was gone. The galaxy trembled. They had seen wars before, brutal and bloody, but never had they seen control like this. Humanity fought with precision, destroying only what needed to be destroyed. Not chaos, not rage, but order. It was war remade into something colder, something terrifying. On worlds across the stars, people whispered, "The humans could have burned the Empire," they said. They could have turned every city to ash, but they did not. They destroyed only fleets, only weapons, only those who chose war, and that made the fear worse. Because mercy mixed with power is not weakness, it is dominance. The council reconvened in panic. Some begged to surrender to Earth. Others demanded unity against the Armada. But unity was impossible. No one trusted each other, and in their fear, they trusted humanity even less. Meanwhile, the silent armada moved on, not to conquer, not to plunder, but to enforce. Every world that mocked peace was marked. Every empire that had laughed at Earth now faced judgment fire, not destruction, not genocide, but silence and shadow, fleets broken, leaders erased, weapons turned to dust. And with every strike, the message grew louder. We did not want war, but you forced it. We do not destroy the innocent, but we will erase the arrogant. You had your chance for peace, and you chose fear. In the galaxy's darkest halls, alien rulers shivered, because they finally understood. Humanity was not seeking conquest, humanity was teaching, and their lessons were written in fire and silence. The galaxy had mocked them once. Now it trembled before them, and still the humans did not boast, did not explain, did not celebrate. They only moved shadow to shadow, judgment to judgment, until at last, one thought haunted every empire. If this is only their judgment fire, what comes when humanity finally unleashes everything? The galaxy remade. The smoke of war still lingered across the stars. Worlds that once laughed at humans now whispered their name in fear. The silent armada had struck and vanished again, leaving behind ruins of fleets and shattered thrones. But why? Not broken cities, not dead civilians, only silence, order, and a new kind of power. The Galactic Council, once a place of arrogance and mocking voices, sat in uneasy silence. Chairs once filled with proud rulers were now empty, their owners gone, some destroyed by human judgment fire, others too afraid to return. And at the center of the chamber, the black stone table with its cracks stood as a reminder. The table had broken when peace collapsed. Now the galaxy itself felt broken. Reshaped by the hands of humanity, Ambassador Hale returned. The same man who had walked out in silence months earlier, mocked and dismissed. Now when he entered the chamber, no one laughed. No one whispered about weakness. Every gaze followed. Him, fearful, respectful. Because behind his calm face stood fleets the galaxy could not defeat. He placed his datapad on the table just as he had before. But this time the silence was not contempt. It was dread. Hale's voice carried across the chamber, steady, cold. You had your chance for peace, he said. You chose arrogance. You chose to mock us, you chose fear instead of unity. He paused, letting the silence weigh heavy. Now peace will not be asked, he said. It will be enforced. The council shifted uneasily. Some wanted to resist, but none dared. The images of shattered fleets, of broken thrones, of silent weapons that tore empires apart still burned in their memories. They knew humanity had the power to destroy them, and they knew humanity had chosen not to. That mercy was more frightening than destruction. One by one, leaders stood and gave their vows, oaths of peace, oaths of obedience, oaths that bound their empires to Earth's terms, not because they wanted to, but because they feared what would happen if they did not. The galaxy bent to humanity's will without a single battle inside the council chamber, because the battles had already been fought in the shadows of space. Outside, alien civilians spoke in hushed voices. They no longer saw humans as weak traitors or naive dreamers. They saw them as judges of the stars, guardians, executioners, and peacekeepers all at once. Children whispered that the silent armada watched from the dark, that if any empire tried to break the new peace, the shadows would return. On Earth, factories slowed, fleets docked, weapons slept. But the silence remained, because silence had become humanity's greatest weapon. Silence carried more weight. Than 1,000 speeches, silence made empires tremble more than fire ever could. Ambassador Hale left the council chamber that day without raising his voice, without boasting of victory, without demanding tribute. He simply said one sentence that echoed across every world. We wanted peace, and now you will live by it. The Galaxy obeyed. Trade routes opened under human watch. Borders once stained with raids grew calm. Old enemies who once fought endlessly now held their fire, afraid of the shadows that moved just beyond sight. For the first time in centuries, the stars grew quiet. But beneath that quiet, A question haunted every ruler, every soldier, every world. If humanity could build the silent armada in secret, what else had they built? If this was only their revealed strength, what power still slept in the dark? No one knew and no one dared to find out. And so the galaxy was remade. Not by the roar of war, but by silence. Not by conquest, but by fear. Not by destruction, but by the judgment of those once mocked. The humans who had entered the council chamber with nothing but a datapad and a warning. The humans who had walked out to laughter, now ruled the stars with a whisper. And as the constellations burned above, every empire looked into the dark between them, wondering if tonight the silent armada was watching, waiting, ready to answer again.